Hey gals and guys, it's your host Phil Larson, and this is your motivational high five on trust. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode. First, a quick shout out to Karen Gregg, who joined the Super High Five Club on Patreon. She came in earlier, just maybe a month or two earlier, at $1 a month, and now she's upped it to $5 a month. And what she gets is access to basically my other podcast called The Inner Voice that is available to all Patreon supporters at the $5 a month level. And if you sign up for that, I will email you personally and give you all the details on that. There's also a $1 a month level. And you're just partnering with me to kind of help offset some of the costs that go into this. This is not a business for me. It's more of a hobby that took the place of my blog. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/YMH5, the number 5. Today's guest is Lacy C. Clark, who also goes by Phenomenal. When I got her email explaining who she was, I knew I had to have her on right away. She is a global empowerment artist and author who overcame poverty, self-esteem, body loathing, and inferiority complex and depression to become a 2-time award-winning author, speaker, and luminary, touring her autobiographical one-woman show called Phenomenal Everywhere around the world. It is the story of her as a Black woman living and loving on 5 different continents, which you can purchase the audiobook from her website, which is peverywhere.com. The letter P for Phenomenal Everywhere. Get it? peverywhere.com. And there'll be a direct link in the show notes, as usual. She has worked with the likes of Dr. Maya Angelou, Spike Lee, Jill Scott, Dr. Sonia Sanchez, and others. You can find her on Facebook by searching Phenomenal Everywhere, or on Instagram, Phenomenal_everywhere. And there's links in your show notes. And without further ado, here's Lacy.
Trust. I'm learning to trust myself. The last 20 years, I have lived on 5 continents worldwide. And a lot of that travel has been solo. Meaning that I've been on a plane. I wasn't on the plane with anyone, but I was actually on the plane alone, and then meeting people or meeting a group or meeting some folks once I actually got to the location, and then developing relationships in that way. And so a lot of that journey was about trust. I had to trust myself enough to know that I could be okay once I traveled, got on that plane to the unknown, if you will, and arrived in a new location, a new land, a new continent with new people and new cultures and customs and languages and foods. I had to learn, or had to trust myself to feel that I was safe enough in the world to experience something good and experience something great. Once I got there, it was really about trusting that I would connect with the right people to get all of my needs met. So whether I got, connected with a hostel, or I connected with a hotel, or some guest houses, I had to trust that all of these experiences were going to be for my highest good. And so I really learned the value of trust when I got out of my box, if you will, and decided to be a traveler, satiate my wanderlust, and live on 5 continents, meet people all over the world, and really learn to love myself in the process of trusting. So it's funny how we trust a lot of things every day, and we trust that the water that we drink is clean. We trust that, the car that we're driving in will get there safely. We trust that we'll wake up the next day. And so my journey with trust is really just understanding how big it has to be to do bigger and better things. So I think trust is a part of everyone's life, whether we choose to accept it or not, or we choose to acknowledge it or not. It is a part of our lives. Now the question is, how big does it have to be? How big do you have to trust? And what do you have to trust in for you to live the life that you want to live? So that's my journey with trust, my experiences of living on 5 continents, coming from Philadelphia, starting out in Philadelphia in a very small world, and then expanding that world to 5 continents and meeting new people and sharing my story. And I write about this story in my one-woman theater show now, turned audiobook called Phenomenal Everywhere. And it is a trust, self-love, self-worth, self-reflection journey of me as a Black woman, learning how to trust myself in a really, 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 really big world. So that's my story. All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lacey. Lacey puts in perspective grand trust for the greater universe, for where your life is heading. Can she trust that she's going to be okay, that she is going to be received, well received and respected? And for her, the only way of finding that out was to just do it, to go into unknown parts of the world she doesn't have much experience with. And in where in your life is there unknown parts that you don't know if you can trust? Because what do you have to draw on? What history do you have to draw on? Well, maybe, as Lacey is showing us, you just have to go. And you have to somehow adopt this bigger trust, this trust that's something bigger than yourself, like kind of what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. says when he says the arc of the universe bends towards justice. Do you believe that? And if we don't, how can we hope and desire and shoot for positive change in our world? Good things to come, taking care of our planet. I don't know about you, but it's easy to get stuck in all the opinions that are coming our way on social media. It's easy to get brought down by that and to go, I don't know who to trust anymore. In politics, just throw your hands up and go, I don't get it. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't even want to be a part of this anymore. And we lose all basic trust in the world and we give up. Oh, it's so easy to do that. What if people were generally good? What if, even though it's easy to hear the negative and it's loud because the negative is louder and it's bigger and it's in your face because it sells clicks online, hint, that's why. What if we get beyond that and trust, hey, if I sit down face to face with someone, we're going to do our best to do what's right as we see it, to trust that people are generally good, that no matter where you are in the world, people are trying to do the best for the most part. This is a trust that is bigger than our sense of control. This is the kind of trust that Lacey is talking about. Understanding how big it has to be in order to do bigger and better things. And even trusting that people who are speaking against maybe what you believe in, maybe they are coming at it with the best intentions to them. And maybe some misinformation, but maybe their opinion was formed out of very legit experiences vastly different from you. And to trust is to trust that they're human and that they may, in fact, hear your side and acknowledge that you have very legit experiences that are vastly different from them and that they may not have all the facts. That through mutual trust of honest communication, we can get to the bottom of. Lacey brings us to the point where we have to choose to either acknowledge it or not. The fact that we have to trust in order to get by, in order to live, in order to try to leave a lasting impact, that our lives can actually offer some sort of change, some positive change to the world. That involves trust. That involves stepping into the unknown. And that choice, we can acknowledge it or not. And when we acknowledge it, the question is, as she presented it, how big does it have to be? And what is it? What do you have to trust in for you to live the life you want to live? Trust, there's something about trust in letting go. Like, trust comes by letting go of our distrust, by letting go of what we want to have control over, and guess what? Don't. But don't get stuck in the distrust. Without trust, we cannot love. So, like Lacey, are you willing to go to the unknown parts? Are you willing to trust the worst thing? What could be the worst thing? You're going to die? Willing to trust that you probably won't die. And can we go to those parts and can we speak truth? Can we live out who we are and reflect our heart And can we trust the world is generally good, that we'll receive it in some way that is constructive and helpful? It is important to acknowledge distrust. It is important. I'm not sugarcoating that at all. But if that's all we do, we don't move forward. No, trust propels us forward. And maybe that means that you should say something, or maybe that means you should listen. Trust that people are trying to do the best they can based on the experiences that they've lived. And then you demonstrate that same thing. This is an interesting take on trust. It's bigger than I would have taken it. I have taken an episode on trust, episode 13. I'm one of the very first ones. And if you want to head on back to episode 13 and keep on this thought train about trust, give that a listen as well. But it's good. It's in a way like this is a version of trust that gets me outside of myself and causes me to surrender. I have to let go of a little bit of control. So thanks again, Lacy. As we reach the end of another episode, we do what we always do every episode. We invite positive voices, a positive mantra, a narrative in our lives that challenges the negative narratives that have taken up residence in our brain. And as we repeat this positive mantra that is to come, I hope you find a reflection of yourself, either in the front-facing camera of your phone, in a mirror, some sort of reflection. Look at yourself and begin to rewire your brain with this mantra. Here we go. Today, I can set aside my control to embrace trust for the greater good. And straight up, Lacy said it at the very end. You can choose to accept it or not. You can choose to acknowledge this need to trust or not. And I would challenge you not to go the not way, which is probably the easier way. It is also the stuck way. It provides the most resistance to moving forward. And whether that means you need to begin trusting in a new relationship or an old relationship, or begin trusting yourself instead of a relationship, or a job or a desire you've been putting to the side and they just all scare you because there's a lot of unknowns. Step into the unknown and begin to trust in the bigger, greater things so that you can reach a life that is bigger and greater than you've ever imagined. A life that you've always wanted but maybe have never let yourself believe you could have. That requires trust. And that starts with you.